Everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Office Hours Politics Edition with your host, Ziana Ali. I hope you guys don't mind that I'm in my pajamas and fresh out of the shower. I have been very busy and struggling to find the time to sit and chat. So I'm taking the opportunities as they come. I hope you guys don't mind. But I have an obsession with American politics. I think Americans do politics like no other. And I'm currently taking this American government and politics class. And my professor's awesome, and he's heavily inspiring this obsession and all of my American politics content on the podcast thus far. Definitely going to try and have him on. So, anyways, today we're unpacking one of the most powerful and misunderstood institutions in the modern world, the American presidency. In the US, the president is not just a politician. They're a symbol of leadership, of hope, of the belief that one person can change an entire nation. But this image, this mythology of the presidency hides far more complicated reality. The presidency is both incredibly powerful, but also deeply constrained. It's shaped by history, by the media, by the Constitution, by the expectations of millions of Americans who look to that single office for answers. So where does the real power of the president come from? How has it changed over time? And what does the evolution to this office reveal about American political culture itself? Let's break it down. So first, we're going to start with the myth. Presidential elections in the US are long, exhausting, emotionally charged. Campaigns stretch over 12 to 15 months, full of debates, rallies, and endless media coverage. Yet, voter turnout remains surprisingly low. In 2022, 66% of Americans voted, which was the highest in decades. So why do Americans obsess over the presidency when they don't even vote? Because American presidency is not just a political role. It's a cultural phenomenon. Americans have been taught to see the president as a kind of nation savior, and a hero who can unite the country, fix the system, restore moral order. This belief runs deep in American political culture. The U.S. was founded on this idea of greatness, of exceptional leaders rising above the rest, which we went over in the last podcast, not the last one, but the one about the revolutions. Go listen to that if you haven't. Anywho now. So when a new president steps into the Oval Office, there's almost a spiritual expectation that they'll bring change immediately. That's why many presidents, like Obama, could campaign on hope and change, or why Trump's Make America Great Again resonated so deeply. Both appealed to the same cultural instinct, the idea that America's destiny depends on the strength of one man on top. But here's the contradiction. Presidents inherit systems far more complicated, far more complex than any campaign promise. The tools, people, and skills required to get elected are unfortunately not the same they need to govern. The myth of the great individual, the great president, often collides with messy, bureaucratic machinery of reality. Moving towards power and constraint. The president is often called the most powerful person in the world, but the phrase is only half true. Yes, the president leads the executive branch, commands the military, and sets national agendas, but they operate within a system designed to limit them. The U.S. Constitution is a masterpiece of checks and balances. It gives the president potential for strong leadership, but it also builds in constraint oversight from Congress, the courts, and the public. Presidents are judged quickly, politically, personally, and morally. Reagan, Clinton, and even Obama were measured not just by policies, but by charisma, image, and how presidential they seemed. The presidency is effective, but not absolute. It's powerful, but not a tyranny. The office depends on Congress, but isn't indebted to it. And the delicate balance has always defined how the U.S. government works or doesn't. That's why the framers of the Constitution never allowed for a direct popular vote. The Electoral College and the role of the House were designed to mediate popular passion through institutional control. But Over time, as media and technology evolved, the distance between president and people collapsed. Presidents became celebrity. We the people era transformed into I, the president era. Talking a little bit about Congress. In the early 19th century, Congress was a dominant branch of government. Presidents were relatively weak, caretakers more than visionaries. But that began to change in the 20th century, especially during moments of crisis. The Great Depression, World War II demanded decisive action, and Franklin D. Roosevelt responded. FDR didn't just expand government programs, he expanded the presidency itself. The New Deal redefined what presidents could do, linking the office directly to the welfare of the people. The creation of agencies, an explosion of staff, and the introduction of radio fireside chats all created a direct and emotional political bond between the president and the public. Under FDR, the presidency grew from 500 staffers to a complex bureaucracy. That's how you speak English. Truman had 200. Nixon had 600. Today it's a little bit is 500 key staffers, each shaping how the president sees and acts on information. The chief of staff became crucial, an unelected figure who determines who gets access to the president and what information they see. Nixon's weak chief of staff helped create chaos in his administration. In contrast, disciplined operations under Obama or Reagan kept their presidencies relatively stable. The 20th century also brought something new, the idea that the president was the agenda setter. Roosevelt's famous first 100 days became the standard for judging effectiveness. From the New Deal to the Affordable Care Act, every modern president is expected to hit the ground running. But this pressure to act fast can distort governance, turning long-term policymaking into short-term symbolism. Let's move on to the machinery of power. The president's power doesn't just come from charisma. It is built into the tools of the office. First, there's the power to appoint. Every president fills around 2,500 roles in the executive branch, from cabinet secretaries to deputy positions. These appointments shape how the government functions day to day. The phrase, serve at the pleasure of the president, says it all. Then there's the power of the pen. First, they have veto power, the ability to reject laws passed by Congress, which they can use as leverage sometimes against Congress. Then there's pocket vetoes, when the president simply doesn't sign a bill before Congress adjourns, effectively killing it. And that's like some sneaky stuff. And then there's signing statements, a way for the president to aid in the interpretation to laws, subtly shaping how they will be enforced. And there's executive orders, which we're hearing so much of. Direct demands to the federal government that carries the force of law, as long as they are grounded in constitutional or statutory authority. These powers have expanded presidential reach without changing the Constitution itself. Every president, from Lincoln to Biden, has used them. But how they used matters. When Trump signed sweeping executive orders on immigration, it raised the question, are presidents serving the system or are they bending it? Let's move on to legacy. Presidents are often made by great foreign policy, but they are judged by domestic affairs. Lincoln is remembered for saving the Union. It was the Emancipation Proclamation that defined his moral legacy. FDR's greatness is tied to the victory in World War II. But he was measured by the success of the New Deal at home. Congress has limited influence in foreign policy, so the president's control there is nearly absolute. Yes, when it comes to domestic policies, especially the economy, Congress becomes both an ally and an obstacle. LBJ's presidency is a perfect example of navigating this tension. Using his deep experience in Congress, LBJ passed the Civil Rights Act and the Great Society programs, legislation that reshaped America. He succeeded where Kennedy failed, proving that political relationships can be just as powerful as ideals. I was cackling a little bit because in class, my professor showed us some pictures and he was like a fairly big man. He was tall and he was big, LBJ. and he would get right up into people's faces and like look down at them, and he was just a very intimidating figure. Not all presidents manage this balance. Some are swallowed by the expectations they helped create. Others, like Trump, redefine the presidency through spectacle, turning governance into performance, loyalty into currency, and politics into branding. Still, every presidency inherits the same paradox: to be a symbol of unity in a divided country. So, what does the presidency tell us about American democracy? It tells us that leadership is both real and imagined. The one office can hold enormous symbolic weight and like real weight, but it can still be trapped in the machinery of government. The presidency is powerful, but it is also a mirror that reflects the nation's hope, the nation's fears, the nation's divisions. It shows what Americans believe about themselves, that one individual can make history, that greatness is personal, that democracy can be led from top down. But maybe the real strength of the presidency isn't in any one person. It's in the constant negotiation between power and principle, between what presidents want to do and what the system allows them to do. From Roosevelt's confidence to Obama's calm to Reagan's optimism to Trump's chaos, the presidency has never just been about politics. It's about identity. Thank you so much for listening, guys. I'm going to do a million more episodes about America, but if you ever want to hear something specific, feel free to leave it in the comments, or you can DM me on Instagram. Until next time, stay curious, stay politically aware, and remember, leadership isn't about who holds power. It's about how it's used. Bye, guys.